Hello, crew members. This is Chelsea Bell from Gordon's Wine and CruBox. I'm here to talk a little more about November's CruBox theme, which is focused on Les Rouges from le Sud de France, of course. So we have 4 wines all coming from the south of France, focused on the Rhône and the Languedoc region. So without further ado, I'll get into it with you. Our first wine that we're featuring is the 2020 Frank Balthazar Côte de Rhône, which is coming mostly from the village of Vinceaux in the southern Rhône Valley. So Frank Balthazar is a producer that we've brought on quite recently and is definitely one of those up-and-coming producers that's really making its mark in the United States. This Côte de Rhône comes from about 60% Grenache and 40% 60% Syrah and 40% Grenache. And Frank Balthazar is one of the top growers in the Northern Rhône, really focused on the village of Cornas in the Northern Rhône. And he left his engineering career in 2002 to start farming these steep granite slopes of Cornas and work kind of with the traditional winemaking methods that his father, René, passed down to him. He's really become known for like a very expressive and traditional winemaker. And what's really exciting that we're starting to see from a lot of these really wonderful winemakers, another example would be Jean-Louis Chave, is that they'll make these Côte de Rhône wines that are quite interesting and complex and unique. Côte de Rhône typically are wines that can come from several different villages, mostly usually based in the southern part of the Rhône, though they can vary with some vineyards in the Northern Rhône and villages in the Northern Rhône as well. But this is a Côte de Rhône that's meant to be a little bit more substantial, a little more expressive, and from this very old school producer who's still actually plowing his vineyards by horse. It's just something that I think you'll really enjoy. And once again, most of the fruit here is coming from one specific village, which is actually one of the cru villages of the Southern Rhône called Vinceaux, which makes just a really beautiful, expressive, delicate, timeless version of Côte de Rhône, which I hope you all enjoy so much. For our second wine, we have the 2019 Domaine de Cristia Chapelle Saint-Théodoric Les Sablons, which is Châteauneuf-du-Pape AOC. So out of all of the cru villages throughout the north and the south of the Rhône Valley, Châteauneuf-du-Pape is definitely the one that is always usually the most coveted. As you can see from the papal seal here, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, little village in the southern Rhône, was actually the papal residence for about 100 plus years. And if you ever get to visit the village, it's incredible, just a small little town, but with some of the most interesting terroir. This is once again an area that's known for these beautiful gallet stones, as this area used to be underwater. And they're just so unique. And it's just, once you drop yourself into the vineyards, you're just kind of really shocked by how unique the terroir is. So what's interesting about Châteauneuf-du-Pape is it's known mostly as being known for blending, typically known for red wines, though they do make some white wines too. You can blend usually up to 13 varietals. So this is a really unique Châteauneuf-du-Pape as it's actually 100% Grenache, as opposed to using any of the blending varietals. Grenache typically does make up the majority of the blend when Châteauneuf-du-Pape is blended, but this is 100% Grenache. And this is a project actually, which is by an importer named Peter Weigand, with the winemaker Baptiste Grandjean of Domaine de Cristia. And what's really interesting about these Châteauneuf-du-Papes from Chapelle Saint-Théodoric is it's actually a much more Burgundian style. We're starting to find, and you might have seen in some of the Spanish cru boxes that we've focused on with Garnacha, they're starting to make Grenache or Garnacha when made well in a much more kind of refined style that's not as focused on the extracted fruit, but has a really kind of elegant feel and body and coloring similar to Pinot Noir. And this definitely is very successful here with the Les Sablons. The domain Chapelle Saint-Théodoric is comprised of 2 parcels, one called Les Gougasses, which is pure sand soils, and the vines age there from 50 to 100 years for the Grenache. And then another one called Pignon or Le Grand Pin, which actually is right next to Chateau Rayas, another sand-based soil property that makes some of the most coveted Chateauneuf de Pape in the world, that also has that kind of Burgundian feel to it. So this Les Sablons is a combination of 2 of these vineyard sites, and the wines are aged for two years in 4 to 10 years, 600-liter barrels, and bottled unfined and unfiltered, and just really gorgeous, super elegant, great for Thanksgiving, but also just amazing to sip on as we're getting into these cooler months. But what could Chateauneuf de Pape be without a little Baccarat? We have the 2019 Domaines de Sang des Cailloux Baccarat, which is called Floretto 2019, which I'll explain in a second. So you can see another fun seal here. Baccarat is a village very close to Chateauneuf de Pape, where a lot of people go to seek more reasonably priced blends that are very similar to Chateauneuf de Pape, but sometimes can be about a quarter of the price, though Baccarat prices have been going up. This is a property that's owned by a gentleman named Serge Ferrigoul, who is known for having this incredible mustache that is just amazing to look at and to witness. And this is a producer that left winemaking school in the 1970s and worked for a property owned by a gentleman named Monsieur Roucard for a long period of time. And in the early 1990s, he launched his own winery, Les Sang des Cailloux. At that time, Baccarat had just been awarded an AOC status. Once again, it's another Cru Village site in addition to Chateauneuf de Pape. And Serge was able to farm 17 hectares of amazing soils, which are comprised of red clays and limestones, and the famous galets, as we talked about, which are those beautiful rounded stones. So you find just a lot of complexity in his wines, and you find also too, they have concentration and power, but at the same time, he likes to farm organically, and he's never sought certification because he feels like he's not looking to impress anybody. He's just looking to make the best possible wines that he can. And they really express that classic kind of leather, spicy curry, and smoky black fruit that you find in the Southern Rhone. Each year, he'll change the name of his Baccarat Rouge to represent one of his daughters. So this 2019 is Floretto, which is one of his daughters. He also has 2 other daughters, Ducinello and Azalea, some really interesting names. And then for this Baccarat Rouge, the wines are raised for a minimum of 6 months in food, and fermentation happens in cement cuvées, the wine's unfined and unfiltered, and once again, about 70% Grenache, with remaining Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Cinsault. So definitely a little bit more powerful, but at the same time, that kind of earthy rusticity that we crave once the temperatures start getting cooler, which they finally are. So last but not least, we have the 2019 Domaine de Corbezac Les Traverses, which is from the Minervois AOC in the Languedoc. So we're getting to Southwest France. We took you to the Rhone for 3 different expressions, and now we'll go to Southwestern France, where we're finding some really interesting wines. For a long period of time, once again, the Languedoc was really kind of known for not having as many, I guess, rules and stipulations as a lot of other regions. So there was a lot of different grapes planted there. There was a lot of large scale production happening, a lot of kind of bigger varietals, Cabernet Sauvignons, Merlots, different things planted, and not a lot of focus on terroir. And terroir is something that is so important to the Languedoc, and they have some incredible terroir to express. So you find a lot of really interesting producers that are dynamic, that are now coming onto people's radar. A lot of what keeps us bringing once again back to the Languedoc is that these estates here are also dedicated to a more nuanced approach, where the soil and site are respected and nurtured. And Domaine de Corbisac is one of those areas that are producers that really is able to successfully do this. It's a property owned by a gentleman named Reinhard Brundig. He was a successful film producer in Germany, and he founded the winery in the early 2000s. He was drawn to the property by just like the beauty of it, the complexity of soils, and at the heart of it, they had these really old vines, around 90-year-old vine Grenache, 70-year-old vine Carignan, and 70-year-old vine Cinsault, and some older vine Syrah Mourvèdre as well. And he just really thought it could be an area to produce some interesting wines. He's always farmed biodynamically. And at the end of 2013, he partnered with a wonderful upcoming female winemaker named Brunhild Klo, who had worked for some incredible properties, including Terroir à Limite in Priorat, and then Dominic Huber in Austria. So with her training and experience making those wines, she takes a real hands-off approach to Corbisac, and she's continued farming biodynamically and harvests each plot and variety separately and manually. The Le Traverse is a blend of equal parts Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre coming from the younger vines of the property and aged in concrete, and fermentations are natural. And it's just an incredible wine that once again shows the complexity and power of Southern France, but at the same time has some real elegance and kind of lift to it. So I'm excited for you guys to taste all these wines. I know you're going to love them, especially as you get into your roasts and your kind of warming meals of the late fall and early winter. And wishing you all a happy start to the holiday season, and looking forward to sharing more wine with you in the future. Thank you so much, and look forward to being with you soon.